Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of speaking to some of the best global marketing leaders across the world. And I am super excited to have Kelly Haggard. Kelly is the Vice President of Marketing Innovation at Synchrony Financials. And of course, Kelly, we all know Synchrony. Most of us know Synchrony. So I don't want to mention about how big a company you work for, but thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today, and having met your team. So, really looking forward to it.
So Kelly, let me start this conversation. How we usually go is we know the personal side of Kelly, we know the professional side of Kelly, we know the AI side of Kelly, and then we know everything in the last round. That's my favorite. That's like a rapid fire round that we host. So that's usually the format of how we do these conversations. Let me ask you the first question, most basic one. How did you land up in marketing? Where do you grow up to? I mean, marketing is like a it's an accidental career for most of the marketers. You do something and you realize, oh, I'm a marketer all of a sudden now. So over to you, and love to know your story entirely of where did it all start to how did it all went through. I just want to mention for the audiences, guys, Kelly has spent over 10, almost 10 years at Synchrony now. Kelly, believe me, this is a myth for most of the people right now, especially in marketing, spending 10 years at the same company. And I'm pretty sure you've made the best out of it. So yeah, over to you, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. I started off in musical theater. I thought that was going to be what I ended up doing. My grandparents came over on a boat during World War II. My grandmother was an opera star, and that was going to be my future and my plan. Somewhere along the lines, I decided I was going to be a grade school teacher. So I switched my major, and I actually graduated with a minor in liberal studies. Um, but I took a marketing class. And the summer before the class started, I took my textbook on a vacation to Hawaii, and I read the textbook cover to cover. And I took that. It was an easy A for me in college, and I realized that I probably should be looking more at a marketing career after reading that book and going through stuff. Marketing had always worked on me. I'm the person that walked into a store and considered how much it costs to operate the store, have the employees there, product positioning, and whether or not they were making a profit. So the sales side of marketing. And so it just kind of blew up from there. I started dabbling in public relations stuff, and that really wasn't the right fit. Then I got into marketing, and then I very quickly gravitated toward the technology side of marketing. So it was a journey to here, and then once you're in the technology side of marketing, you are if you understand and get the marketing side of it, and get the technology side of it, it's a little bit of a unicorn. So there just were a lot of opportunities that kind of opened up once I made that decision. But yeah, musical theater to Martech was quite the journey. But you learn things along the way that end up feeding what your marketing profile looks like. So
That's amazing. I think the most common thing I see between an opera star and a marketer is both of you are engaging the audience in the right frame of mind. So let me put it that way. So I'm hoping all things combined together start align with you. But Kelly, let me ask you this, right? I was seeing through your journey experiences. You've worked in industries as different as finance, healthcare, retail, travel, and whatnot. The first question I have for you is what's the personal filter you use to quickly understand a new audience? And like when you're switching different industries, the audiences are very different. Their passion points, pain points, both are very different in this case. How do you actually like what's the personal filter? Like what's the framework? When you join a new company, how do you kind of look through these differences? And let me start my questions over there.
yeah, the first thing I like to do is see if there is either an internal research group or study that just defines the audience that exists. So I can tap into that and start understanding what solution the company has, what they're solving for. Every product, or you're solving for something. Whether it's a bank and we're solving for people needing money, so we have credit cards and loans, or I worked at a running shoe company, so you're solving for people getting the right solution so they could, take up running. It's really looking at, what are we solving for? And then what are the communications we're sending out today? And then are there any gaps? So
Hmm.
is there something that we're sending out based off of what we think the customer is and what they need versus what they actually do need? I think we had consultants come in one time at one of the companies I was at that take you through a journey of like getting to the airport and versus getting to your destination. So it's you have to land, you have to get your bags, you have to get a rental car. What happens if the rental car gets a flat tire? You're calling to customer service. Someone comes out and replaces a flat tire. You get there and then you check into your hotel. And then really just taking a step back and thinking about all of those steps. So, what are we solving for? What are the pain points? Are we addressing all of those? Are we getting them those communications and messages at the right times when those things start to happen as they go through, from landing until arriving at their hotel? Things like that, I think, is how I would look at it. Regardless of the industry, that same sort of general framework of what are we solving for and how do we get them the right messages to have the best experience.
So what I'm taking away from that is, Kelly, you're saying one is enter a company, irrespective of the industry, look at the consumer data on the first go, which might be in the form of
Yeah.
a report, or it might be if the team's existing in that case, see what is working, not working, and go it ahead from there. Believe me for a
Yeah.
fact, this is such a first principle insight. It is so common. I don't think anyone would not know of this. But most of the people I meet say we want to do this, but we're not able to do this. It is such an
No.
operator nuance of sorts. This is so easy. I mean, any marketer I ask who's done like who's gone to a business school and asked them what would you do when you join a company, they would definitely give me the same answer. But most people lack on doing it. And the other part being, we just hosted an event with almost 100 CMOs yesterday in the Bay Area. And there's this concept of chief market officer that come in. They said the only reason why marketing teams are going to be extremely relevant for a company, and the only point to prove your relevance in a company, is you go and you speak about you knowing the customer better than anyone else. So it's more like chief marketing officer turning into more like a chief market officer of sorts. And you say like you can question anyone in the company saying, I know the customer better than literally anyone else out there in that case. But
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for that insight. I think let me ask you the second point, right? See, you've grown up the ranks in Synchrony, particularly where you started on the credit card side of the division, particularly, or the credit side of the business, to growing up
Yeah.
to taking up technology. Now, the interesting part is in the last decade or so, when you've spent time in one particular organization, the the landscape of marketing has changed altogether. If you look at the overall marketing landscape, I mean, AI has come to the picture, cloud came before that, digital transformation came before that, and you've seen all the curves because you've spent good enough time to see the traditional to digital to the AI era of marketing. My
Right.
question to you would be, how, like, what has been the most fundamental first principle that hasn't changed in that duration? Like, if I were to ask you, hey, what is it one thing that doesn't change even in this era versus what was there like 10 years ago, particularly, how did that customer centricity part look like for you? I mean, I'm asking you this as a very generic question, but believe me, most people are still wanting to see what is not changing these days, except for everyone saying everything is changing these days. So over to you.
I think the one thing that hasn't changed is measurement and value, right? So as you look at any of the new technologies, what are they bringing to the table? And those things aren't always. It's not always revenue. It's not always cost savings because in a lot of cases it's softer stuff like customer satisfaction, making sure that the customer has a good experience that then feeds into something like an MPI score. Those things are really consistent regardless of whatever the technology is. The other is data. You have to have data. You have to have good data because it's garbage in, garbage out. So if I'll a baseball team that I really like, I went there and they didn't have the giveaway that day and they were going to have to mail it out, right? So they had everybody fill out all of their information, and then they mailed it out. When they mailed it out, they did something wrong with the sorting or the mail merge. And so it was like somebody else's first name, my last name, the address was,
Oh,
I don't even know how I got it, to be honest. But again, that's an example of like they had the right data. They did some wrong massaging to it. And then everybody's like, oh, I got, someone else is like, I got your first name and then this other last name, but it came to my house and I still got it. Some people I'm sure didn't get it at all. That's like an example of like if you put in bad data, you're gonna get bad results regardless of whatever tool you use and how you apply it. So I think those are the two principles that across the board, regardless of the technology, there's some shiny object stuff. There was a lot of campaigns for a while going out with augmented reality, where it was like, oh, I can do this and I can do that, and people were playing with it, but I don't think it made them buy more, and I don't think it made them share more, and I don't think it extended the customer experience. But it was shiny, and it was something you could show, internally inside the company, or if you had investors, but it didn't really net anything. So that like everything there has to be a cause and a reaction that is the appropriate one, as you look across at all these technologies now.
no, you're absolutely right. Sometimes, we all get overwhelmed with technologies from the vanity metric standpoint. Honestly, I mean, we don't really care about, you want to be the company using the technology rather than thinking of what impact can it make, in
Yeah.
some sense. And I completely get what you say. But let me come down to what you mentioned about the customer experience part of things, right? You mentioned like at the end of it, it's basically acquisition, but it's also the experience across the journey of a customer. Like that mail example that you gave is just one small example of it. My question to you is, these journey mappings can get really overwhelming because right now the problem is that there's almost one company coming up every weekend to say that we are the best people who can map journeys for you and we can do personalization. And I don't know, I mean, who is good or who is bad out of it. Question to you
Right.
is, how do you decide as a leader which customer moments are actually worth investing your time and influence in? Because you're effectively trying to play with humans at the end of it. It's more like a B2C, I call it a B2H. It's business to humans at the end of it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
how do you go on deciding that?
Well, some moments are obvious, if you think about the journeys that matter. So a new customer, maybe a replenishment moment, some sort of a milestone date, like a birthday anniversary, some of those things, maybe a lapsed customer. But I think there's
Mhm.
the opportunities are out there to identify new journeys that haven't yet been identified or addressed. So think about it, if it's something maybe related to your healthcare plan. Maybe it's related to your deductible reset, and it's a journey that's around that. That this is something that happens every year. As you hit your deductible, then the insurance pays more of it. In January, it resets. You're going to put more money into your healthcare stuff. If you got tickets for an event, and there's an opportunity, I've seen a lot of concerts lately. You can pre-purchase the merchandise. Well, that's giving them, that was never done before, right? And that helps them with inventory. It helps with the sales. I have a better customer experience because I'm going to get the shirt I want for sure. I'm not going to go there and find out it was sold out or they didn't have my size. So I think it's a little bit more of what I was speaking about. When I land on a plane and I've got to get to my hotel, and that's my journey. And so, what are the different things that could happen in that journey, and how can I get those data signals and then message to them to ensure that they have the best experience that's going to make them come back and frequent my business more often. So sometimes it's bringing everybody in the company into a room, right, and go through that experience of journey mapping and saying, this is how do we get the customer from here to here? What are the sort of things that happen? What are the systems that are involved with that happening? What's the sort of messaging that they would need? But bring in everybody. Sometimes I
Right.
think you bring in the tech team, and the tech team focuses on what's possible with what you have today versus someone else that maybe is a product user but also works for your company. Doesn't have a different insight. Like, well, here's my experience, and then
Mhm.
bring it all together. I think there's the great ideas come from anywhere in the company. So any sort of exercise like that is going to bring value to any of that work, and especially journey mapping.
No, that's very interesting. In fact, a lot of times we kind of underestimate the power of web journeys, and I call them web journeys particularly because earlier they used to be linear. So the IDA frameworks don't work anymore. That's like a 2016 thing now anymore. I mean, people are like not looking at you once. I know there are some frameworks that people have made, which is 7 touch point, 21 touch point, etc. I mean, I have my own doubts because of that. It's more like, hey, what moment of influence are you able to nudge in? Like I've seen companies do really well by just hitting the customer once. But that is so
Yeah,
powerful that they hit the customer once, the customers won't ever forget you after that.
yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
completely echo what you said in that case. Let me ask you another question, Kelly, which is from the side of the vendors. And I'm going to ask you this particularly because you've spent so much time with so many companies, you've bought tools, you've done pilots, you've failed, you've succeeded, etc. Right? My question to you would be, given with these new channels and platforms that are emerging every weekend, like I was telling you, how do you decide what's really worth experimentation versus implementation versus ignorance? And this is a question because a lot of audience watching this might also be people who might be selling to marketers in that case, right? Just a level of influence and understanding, how do you prioritize that, because there's so much of noise that's literally happening. I'm pretty sure you get hit by at least 100 vendor emails every month, every week, if I'm not wrong, more than that
Yeah.
definitely. How, what actually attracts people up? And this is just not for you, maybe for all marketers in general, but like things that you think that vendors don't know about buyers in that case. And I'm asking this a very flip question around for the vendors in the audience particularly.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think the biggest thing that vendors don't acknowledge is if we have a solution in place already doing it, we're not necessarily looking to replace. That's not innovation to us. A big company, it's a lot of work to onboard a new vendor and bring a new vendor in, and there has to be a solid use case. And I think if you have an existing relationship, I mean, I can go into my theories on LinkedIn and like whether or not I accept someone or not accept someone, because I get a lot of those requests too, but that's a whole nother podcast topic itself. Like people want to know what's in it for me. And so I have an existing vendor. I probably have a relationship with that vendor and they offer, similar products and solutions. Because I already have that relationship, if they offer it and we're not doing it yet, I'm probably going to work with them first.
Hmm.
If it's a net new innovation, I think it's a little more. I used to go to marketing Sherpa events years ago, and the guy that ran it, his name was Flint. I don't remember his last name, but he uses an example of you're gonna get married, and so you're not gonna walk up to someone in a room and say you're attractive and let's go get married. You're going to have a full story of interactions that lead up to it. So if there's a very valuable webinar in the innovation, like something like that is probably more likely. If I'm meeting you in person at a trade show, maybe, giving me sharing some case studies or some information if I've come by your booth to talk about it, is, I'm not going to meet you immediately out of the door and like, okay, let's demo this. Like, what are we demoing? Like, I don't understand. So it's a little bit about what's in it for me, and then taking that over time, building that relationship that then becomes a marriage between vendor and company. So it takes a lot of patience, especially in like an industry like financial. It's a very long timeline of like from meeting to actually getting on board. But it really has to be what's in it for me. So what am I going to be able to bring back to my leaders that I'm either driving revenue, saving costs, or driving customer satisfaction?
I love the example of dating versus marrying. I mean, people kind of just jump in and say, "Hey, let's do a marriage." I mean, no one would care about that. So I love that example. All credits to whoever made that happen. But interesting. I want to ask you another question. Now, this is from the point of view of marketing leaders or emerging leaders, particularly, right? Uh, Question to you would be for the marketers who want to, I mean, lead innovation in companies, right? What's that one leadership behavior you have found that earns respect and influences the fastest in an ecosystem of so many people? And this is I'm asking you from the learnings you've had over the years across multiple organizations, and because you grew up across organizations as well, right? I just feel like marketing leadership is a not it's just not a job to manage the team and run marketing. It's a job to influence everyone else except for marketing. I mean, I would put it this way: you're dealing with the sales team, you're dealing with the founders, you're dealing with the CEO, you're dealing with the board at times. You're also dealing with so many other stakeholders. Of course, I'm not mentioning procurement, finance, legal. So many people, especially in a category like yours, you're dealing with these number of people, right? Love to understand how do people prove that metal to everyone else to get them on board with something that's right, of course, in this case. What have you seen, like any small tidbits or tactics you feel that over the years has proved out really, really well for you?
Yeah, my I have so many favorite quotes, but I one of the things is you listen to hear and not to speak. So if you're thinking about selling a new innovation to the C-suite or others in the company, you really have to make sure that your innovation pitch, and there is a pitch, like everyone, you've got to think about those slides, and that elevator pitch of what your innovation is. You have to make sure it aligns to the overall goals that the company has communicated out. The other is, I think, making sure that everyone's on board. So it takes time, but I'm not going to invite 30 people that have never heard about an innovation to the meeting at the same time, because
Hmm.
everyone's going to have different concerns and different things that they want highlighted, and you can quickly derail the conversation, and then it's not on your innovation at all. So you have to connect one on one with the different stakeholders. So who are your stakeholders? Is it IT and maybe sales and maybe marketing leadership and maybe the analytics team, right? So I would meet with them individually and say, here's the pitch. Like, what are your thoughts? Make sure you incorporate their thoughts in the deck. So when you pitch out, they actually have a stake in the game because they've already talked to you and they provided their insights, and you're making sure that their voices are amplified too, not just yours. So the more eyes you can have on it, the more feedback you can get, the more advocates you have in the room. And I think that's the most important. Is there's a lot you can do on your own. We
Yeah.
all know, like bigger companies, they talk about the siloed organization, but there's so much more you can do if you work together. So if you pitch it out to them and you get their input and you say, okay, I understand what you're saying. Let me address that and make sure I address that in my pitch. And then when you go to pitch out, you've already aligned separately, and you don't have, all of a sudden IT says, well, what about this? You know that you're never going to be able to do it without taking that into
Yeah.
consideration, because I've had that conversation on the side. I can say, and this is, this is, and it's not foolproof. There's bound to be someone that comes in that you didn't connect with before, but if you can connect with the majority at least, you have a much better chance of getting your innovation through.
Interesting. Yeah, I get what you say, right? I mean, most people kind of jump, like there's also a dating phase within organizations, if I were to put it this way. Most people
Yeah,
jump into a marriage with internal stakeholders immediately as well. And
yeah.
yeah, I see it's also see, there are a lot of marketing leaders I feel who have grown up the ranks very fast. So they've not gone through the journey of dealing with too many stakeholders. But as soon as they're on the top, now they face this problem. And I keep on speaking to a lot of them, like people who are young, but they've become like VPs without that experience. And they're like, dude, I want to move fast, but like this guy doesn't move fast. I mean, because you don't know how to make the guy move in this case. But I completely get, I echo what you mean by that. Interesting. And I want to also ask you this interesting question, Katie. I mean, this is again from the lens of a marketing leader in that case, right? Let me tell you this. I've been speaking like in my job, I have to speak to like so many marketing leaders every day. I've done like one-on-one meetings with over 500 leaders over the last 1 year. I was just calculating that day. I saw my calendar across the board. That's like almost on an average two people every single day, right?
Wow.
And and this is across events. You go one-on-one. These are one-on-one meetings I'm speaking of, right? The most beautiful part I've seen, and this is just a personal question. You can just cut me out and say you don't agree to this maybe, but I felt this way that the one thing that I've seen between good marketers and better marketers and the best marketers, the difference between them is the onset of discipline in the way they work. And let me put it discipline, right? I mean, I've seen people, like the one trait that's such a small trait between people I've seen, but that works really well is how you cadence with your team. How do you look at data? I've seen the best marketers are the one who wake up every morning to a Slack or a Teams message from their team with the data analytics dashboard of the day. Like I know a few marketers who told me that they have one person on their team designated to just send that screenshot on the Slack channel every day morning that they wake up and they look
I
at the
love it.
data in that case, right? And this is such an underrated trait. I mean, this takes so less of an effort, but it is just consist like you have to push yourself to do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
My question to you would be, how do you relate this? I mean, how do you relate the service and discipline side of things to the way you work? I'd love to hear your opinions on that because, in particularly, your role, data plays such an important role. And I'm just not speaking of data. That includes data, cadencing with people, cadencing with partners, being on top of things, everything. But you have to do it every single day. Like you cannot say I did it once and then I'll do it after 3 weeks, and then after 3 weeks, and then it doesn't work after a point in time. So the part of discipline, love to hear your thoughts on that. And sorry, I went in for long, but this is that one trait I've always been seeing between good and better marketers in that case. So love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the what's in it for me. I feel like everybody wants to know how something performed or how something worked out that they worked on. Even if, let's say I have to go to the analytics team and I need their support on a campaign, and I'm going to make them do extra work because I need them to do something around audience segmentation or something else. If I take the time to then tell them, oh, and this is how it performed, you worked on this, then I'm giving them back something that they could put, it's a feather in their cap. It's something that they can say, I worked on this and I developed it. And then I also, then it helps me be someone that communicates back after it went out. And then they're more likely. So then if they've got 3 projects that come in at the same time and require the same level of effort, then you build your own brand. It's a little bit of marketing to yourself where you're delivering something tangible that lets them know that this stuff they worked on is valuable. And guess what? They can probably put it in their review at the end of the year. They can put it in, the sort of stuff they've delivered. And so you're making them stakeholders. It's the same around communicating. You're making them a part of the process, and it's not you siloed. It's you guys collectively as a group, and then they share in the success. So I think that is huge. I love the idea of a dashboard. We had a call center up in Arizona, and you would see in real time. We're dealing with this many calls.
Put it on
The
the
calls
screen
are,
like a
here's the
live screen
timeline.
was it?
It's on a screen, and it was updated in real time. And I thought that's great. Like, people know, like, I'm a part of that number, and that's like you want to be a part of it. Everybody wants to be a part of that number. So if they can work on something with you and get that, they're going to be more likely to want to partner with you and work with you to help you deliver that.
Yeah, I love the idea of the screen. I mean, I've seen a lot of e-commerce companies doing that. They have like every day there's that order count has to reach this particular number, only then we order food in the house. I mean, they do it this way, right? But I love the fact that literally every company can do it. It's just like a culture shift that you try to make and you hold accountability. I also feel
Yeah,
like there's also a very big difference between how startups would operate on this and how enterprises would operate on this. I mean, it's a bit of cultural difference on how you actually operate internally, but at the end of
yeah,
it, accountability is constant across any kind of company in this case.
yeah.
But like that second part, I love what you say.
But
Perfect.
you
I
make
just want to
people
get
ambassadors. You make people ambassadors too, right? So so I've got all those people that help me activate innovation, and then I have all the people that I'm supporting, that are actually we're doing their specific use cases. And
uh-huh.
so what we do is we have a formal process to do, a case study after we've done an innovation one, and then instead of us going out and presenting, I would invite that client marketer to say, okay, it was your use case, it was your project, you present, and now you're an ambassador for me. So if I need someone to do a pilot or a proof of concept now, I've given you something. I've given you the recognition. You present it out to your peers, your case study. We know the value of it. You're able to take it back to our external clients. You're able to take it back to your boss and say, "Hey, I did this," and it gives you something. I don't want to say everybody has an angle. I think that was from was it Bing Crosby, White Christmas? He's like, oh, everybody's got an angle. I don't think everybody has an angle, but I think everybody wants to be a part of something, and they want to be recognized for work that was done well. And so by doing that, I think you give them that. You give, everybody wants a little bit of that, doing the right
I think I
thing.
don't
And
disagree to everyone has an angle. It's just that I would call it everyone needs some equity in the game. Like if they
yes,
have an equity in the game in some sense, people would. I mean, I can tell you, right? I don't want to name the organization right now, but I'll tell you, I just love one of the favorite companies in terms of culture. Is what they do is whenever something happens, like something happened at an achievement standpoint from a company lens, I see literally like 70% of their employees posting it on their LinkedIn. And
yeah,
that happens only when this kind of accountability is there. Like everyone feels that joy of, hey, you know what? I did one part of it, which eventually compounded to this. I mean, it's that feeling of you're part of building something. And as the organizations get larger, it is difficult to manage that across with everyone, particularly.
yes,
But according to me, this flows tops bottom. So if
yeah.
you make multiple nodes and levels and you pass on that culture to people, so it completely depends on how it's managed. But I love what you say. So yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's we if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see Synchrony was voted number 2 in top workplaces. And a lot of our employees shared that out because it was a shared achievement. Everybody contributed to it, and so absolutely agree. It means you're doing when you see that sort of stuff, it means you're doing the right things. People feel good about the work that they're doing. They feel they have equity, and that they're delivering the right things for the company. So it's a good feeling, right? You're doing the right thing has a really good personal feeling inside.
Like I was speaking to a founder, Kelly, like a $500 million company. Now they grew really, really fast. So when you grow so fast, you break a lot of things on the go. And he told me one
Yeah,
big learning was no one cares about that. I mean, of course, people do care, but people care about the recognition more than that $500 Amazon gift card that they get as a gift. Everyone cares about the recognition. Like you can skip that part, and if you're able to just like one mention about that person on LinkedIn with respect to like, hey, this guy did this for us and amazing, or just one shout out from maybe the leader or the CEO of the company adds much more value than the $500 gift card you can give to that person. But that's
absolutely.
like we can discuss like a whole podcast about about this particular part in general. But yeah, I would ask you the part about AI. Now I know everything is AI and everything is not AI. My question to you would be, uh, see, I'm pretty sure you've worked in technological environments now, given the shift and rise that's been happening. My like from your own perspective, like a personal perspective, where do you think will AI create the most human impact in marketing? And when I say the human impact in marketing, the question again lies in the fact that what can AI do and what can AI not do? And and what parts do you think would never be replaced by AI? And what parts do you think would definitely be replaced by AI? I know people are defensive about it. In different industries, the perspectives are different. But I mean, we're not away from the fact that you cannot sideline it anymore. I mean, if you're being defensive about it, good for you, but just for the next few years, because
Yeah,
it is taken up by storm. So just like from a very personal perspective, what do you think about it?
I think there's an opportunity wherever there's automation happening today. So things that are repetitive, there's a place for AI today. Right now, people talk about it in terms of AI with human review or human-led AI. And I think that when it comes to repetitive tasks where it's looking for where A plus B equals C and it's looking for that, there's an opportunity right out of the gate. I think that organizations will continue to grow with more sophistication and those AI agents start to learn more. I've seen use cases where AI can offer up like a product recommendation or give you the best offer. And I think
Yeah.
that there is definitely an opportunity there. I think now is the right time to be testing out in safe spaces, right? They should be looking at, people should be curious, like what is out there with AI? Like where are those opportunities and how can we look at doing foundational things now to build for what's next? I think the recommendation engine isn't that far away. I think you've seen the failed AI images, we all have, where there's six
Images
fingers
with
or
6 fingers.
an
Oh,
extra
yeah.
eye, or there's like there's a couple ears, or it's not really relevant. And I've also seen fake, well, not fake. I've seen where
Deepfake.
it's AI writes the content and you can see that it's AI because it doesn't quite make sense. But I think most people have used it for brainstorming. I think writer's block is a real thing when you're looking at content. So I don't know that it'll be creating the images. So I think there's copyright. There's all kinds of issues with an AI generated image. There's possibly some, with AI generated content, but I think it's a great starting place to get past that writer's block. I do think that
Right.
there's that opportunity. We've all, humans are not a production line. So you can't expect them to just sit there and churn out new copy, new copy, new copy, new copy, 20 times, 30 times a day. But if you've got something that's helping them get past that writer's block, maybe you can, maybe it can increase human production because it's AI subsidized. I think there's opportunities there. It's really a question of like, where does the future go? You and I had connected before with just some ideas around topics, and I'll tell you that like the thing I'm most excited about is how are we going to replace shopping malls? Like some of these malls are like shrinking in size, they're subsidizing. People aren't going in. It's not an experience. When I grew up, it was an experience. Like, let's go hang out at the mall. It's not that way anymore. And so what's next? And I think AI has a place there in what's next. If you think about, I used to get those extra sales if I by people as I waited in the checkout line and I had stuff there. So, they're not getting some of those. I would pass an end cap and grab something off an end cap, and maybe that's how I would purchase that. So like, what is next? Is it an AI scan of your body and that's going to help dictate what kind of clothes you get? I think there's some
That's
really
already
cool.
there, though.
Yeah, it is
That's
there, but it's not there in broad. It's not
right.
there across the board. Like there's no standards yet. And so I think it's going to be really exciting for us in the next few years to see like, okay, so shopping mall to online, or an online to I can grab stuff from the store, pick it up in the store, but I don't have to shop for it, to like what's next. So what is next? I think it's going to be exciting for all of us. Like buckle up, let's go.
I love the fact I read this somewhere, putting it on someone put it on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn or Twitter somewhere. They said, "Hey AI, can you just solve the problem of my dishes and clothes back at home? I'll take care of my work." that's
Right?
that's how we look at it. So interesting one. No, perfect, Kelly. I think this has been amazing. Thanks so much for all the insights. Particularly, move to the last part of this conversation. We speak about we do a rapid fire question round. You get like 7 seconds to answer every question. Feel
Okay.
free to answer all the wrong way, particularly. So all pressure's on you now. But I'm gonna kind of shoot questions out to you, and we do like a bunch of those 5 to 6 questions, and we get to know Kelly as a person now. So
Awesome.
over to you. I start with Kelly. What's your favorite quote? You mentioned you love a lot of quotes, but what's that one quote that keeps like one quote you keep on going back again and again?
When you've made it to your floor, send the elevator back down.
Wow, I'm gonna come back on that. But yeah, I get the gist of it now. So perfect. Kelly, humble brag. What's your humble brag?
I was recognized as a woman of distinction for the state of California. That was pretty cool.
What year?
2021 during COVID, just for all the volunteer work and mentorship I do in the community. So I thought that was really cool.
I think my next podcast has to be how can marketers become the people of distinction in your state. So we can do a 4 hour session on that. But yeah, no, pretty cool. Third one for you, Kelly, would be what's the favorite holiday destination and
Ooh.
why?
There's a little hotel in Utah that I think has been featured in Hallmark movies that is very Christmassy, and they do a giant gingerbread house in the lobby with a different theme every year.
That's nice. So
I think it's
I'm
the
hoping
Stein Erickson in Deer Valley, Utah.
that's so particular. Like you didn't even think about it twice. You're like this particular hotel, this place. I like the particularity here. So nice. Uh, Kelly, what if not a marketer for sure, and if not an opera star for sure, what would you want to switch your careers with now?
I love giving back. I think there's a lot of industries I am involved with from that perspective. So something on a volunteer perspective that helps others. And whether it's people or pets, I think I could find a passion for any of those areas. So,
I love it, and I understand why they gave you the women of distinction for that matter. So I love the passion on that part. Yeah, perfect. Uh, Kelly, if I were to ask you, what are the 3 tabs that are always open on your laptop except for your email? What would those be?
oh wow, that would be Instagram. Maybe Waze. I drive a lot, so so probably Waze, and then Amazon. I'm an Amazon shopper.
Wow. I love the fact you didn't mention anything about data or PPTs or Excel sheets, and you just gave this. I love this. And the last question, this was the last question for you, but what is that one thing that just makes you keep on going every single day after spending 10 years in that organization, right? When you don't think like you've lived a day twice. I mean, what's that one thing that just like keeps you moving? I mean, that's the motivation for you.
I the Everybody says their work office is family. Our particular office of Synchrony started off smaller as Care Credit, and kind of became part of Synchrony. And so I've been here 10 years. A lot of people have been here longer. We've gone to each other's weddings, funerals, kids' performances at school. We come together. We've done some amazing volunteer work as a site. And so for me, the site and the friends and family that I've made here will be with me for the rest of my life. And so I get to come in every day and spend time with them. So that keeps me going. And then what I get to do when I clock out. Those two things together, I think I could see myself being at Synchrony a very, very, very long time.
This is so good and it's so heartfulling too. I mean, it's tough, you realize like you've seen weddings and funerals and children performances, and you've seen people grow up and get their hair gray with you over time at work.
For
That's like
sure.
beautiful to hear. I don't think our generation does it this way. I don't think we think of it this way, but yeah, something to learn from. I'm not commenting anything on that, but something to learn from, I should say. This is so good, Kelly. Thank you so much for this. I hope you had fun. And
Yes.
thank you for doing this with us. I mean, we just come to the end of the conversation. I had so much fun. I didn't realize where the time goes, like where did the time go? But thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you.